Okay, Devin, we're back to Devin now, so we're leaving that bomb under that table. Let's move to whatever the hell's going on here. The wind whips violently in Devin's face. It's powerful enough that he can barely breathe. The ominous sound of the sirens were really the only thing that guaranteed he'd be home as soon as he could possibly be. What? As he possibly could be. He always took their warning seriously because what they warned of always terrified him. So now, in the haze of pain and horror, what? He wonders why he didn't heed the warnings. What did we miss? The mile-wide tornadoes that rip across the plains of his home state evoke a primal fear in him that few other things do. I know this, we're from Kansas. He'd felt that fear moments before his world became a red flash of pain. Oh! Okay, we heard that pop before. Before he saw Artie crumple lifeless to the ground, at the same time a pop echoed through the air. So Artie got shot, dude. Artie's fucking dead. Before he was made to drink some... Oh! Okay, so yeah, I said what's in that water. Before he was made to drink from the plastic bottle of water the other bear had brought out of his trailer, and before his paws were tightly bound above his head. I said it! He's tied up in the shed or some shit! As Devin briefly comes to in the red glow of this metal container he's in, to the sound of metal chains and the feeling of cramped heat, he knows he should be doing something. He should be helping someone he deeply cares about. Lupita, Artie, Cameron. Ooh, Cameron's last in the list? Okay. Cameron. His voice is rough, dry, and on the verge of breaking. His chest feels as if it's being crushed. Devin sinks back into the darkness, even while his mind roils in terror. The fuck does roils mean? Do we have time for a word of the day? No, we don't! We're moving on! Even as the F5 tornado continues to barrel right towards him. There's a tornado now! Or is he just hallucinating this shit? Ah? Oh. Okay, so just Devin's trapped in a tornado machine. I don't know what the fuck's going on. Well, we know he's gagged up and Artie's fucking dead. Cameron said, what the fuck? Cameron, I'm sorry, dude. I'm freaking the fuck out. That's why I get so on edge when I play this fucking game. I don't play it every time because it fucks with me, bro. Cameron sits at the table as the bear busies himself near the stovetop with his fucking tea, and a little apron and a fucking doily, with his back to the coyote. Again, the coyote contemplates leaving, either by asking Brian again or just walking out the door. Yeah, you wouldn't get very far, brother. Another glance toward the window confirms Raincoat Monster is still out there, this time standing high in the trees, perched on a branch, still watching. Cameron quickly looks away again. He feels deep down that if he leaves, another terrible thing is going to happen. While he believes the bear's story about what happened, something about this trailer is extremely uncomfortable, making him even more anxious. It's the wood paneling. I grew up with that wood paneling, that inconsistent wood paneling. It's like, oh, this one's a little thicker and this one's a little thinner. It's so fucking stock and it sucks. I hate it. He thinks that must have something to do with his upbringing. The long, narrow space, feeling familiar in the worst of ways. It's like suddenly falling ill. And being reminded of all the awful feelings one has when they're especially sick. Meanwhile, Brian is chattering on about how chamomile is particularly effective when it comes to anxiety. And Cameron vaguely wonders why he's moving around so much if he's just making tea. You're not watching the fucker making the thing that you're putting in your body. Mostly, though, Cameron is trying to think clearly. get his thoughts to line up correctly through the fog he still feels clouding his brain. It's making him extremely tired, and a couple of times the coyote is convinced that he's still dreaming. It's almost like he's high again, but without any of the positives of being high. His anxiety is already calming down, though, despite the worry of what if that whatever was in the forest might have done some kind of damage to his brain. He focuses his thoughts on Devin, trying to think clearly. Would the bear really leave him alone like this? He could have at least left him a message to let him know that this was what he wanted. That Cameron is safe in this situation. But Cameron also knows that wouldn't have been at all practical. If Devin was really in a hurry, which he definitely would have been, he would have left him behind if he knew it was for the best, and if he knew the situation was safe. There isn't really a way he could have left a message anyway, except for maybe a text, but with no phone and no service. If this Brian guy really wanted to help him, though, he should have gone to the highway instead. He has to have a car, right? It's not like he can just survive out here in an old trailer. Cameron fixes his face into a pleasant smile, knowing that it seemed to set the old bear at ease whenever he did. Do you have a car? Brian, seemingly absorbed in what he's doing, glances back. Well, I kind of share a truck with another guy in town. He happens to be out of town with that truck right now. Of course he would be, right? If you're talking about Duke, we saw him earlier. So he's lying. No, if he's talking about Duke. Oh, okay. Brian smiles at him again. I can see why Daniel likes you. You're a friendly kid. Do you mean Devin? Oh, you mean Devin? Shit, yeah. Brain doesn't remember things like he used to. You're fine. Cameron stares at the table, feeling like that exchange was very strange, but it's hard to think through the cloudiness. Despite the dulled anxiety, the feeling is worrying him more and more. I'm actually feeling really weird. I'm so tired. Well, considering what happened to you, that makes sense. Not to pry, but do you do any drugs? No. Well, not anymore, at least. I mean, I had some weed like hours ago, but that should have worn off by now. Brian shrugs. People always say weed ain't a big deal, but that's probably what fucked me up the most back when I first tried it. Cameron listens to the sound of liquid being poured into a cup. Yeah, I don't think I like it. But I shouldn't still be high, right? You shouldn't. But after my first time smoking, I felt high for fucking years after. Even when I wasn't touching the stuff. Cameron feels a prickle of worry underneath the haze. Years? Yep. It's what's called depersonalization. It made me feel like my own paws weren't my own. And everything looked all weird and distorted like a filter was in front of my own eyes. Cameron vaguely recalls some of his own friends describing the exact same thing, even when their trip was supposed to be over. Also, I remember Brian barely being able to describe a breakfast order. When the fuck did he get such a vocabulary? Again, how the hell? He'd experienced it himself while he was under the influence of various dissociatives. Having the same experience while he's supposed to be sober is borderline terrifying, though. Weed does that? His worry and panic breaks through the surface for a second, and he feels like, for a moment, he's surfaced from the muddy depths of his confusion before slipping back under. He can't live in a dream for the rest of his life. But what even is his life? Sitting here in a trailer with an old, slightly smelly bear? How did he even get here again? Where's Dev? Oh, shit. Cameron suddenly grips the table, paws shaking as he feels as if he's lifting out of his body somehow, and then he has to hold on to something to remain in place. Hey, you alright, kid? Here, Ryan ambles over to his fridge, opens the freezer, pulls out the ice tray, and drops a few cubes into the mug, the ice clinking loudly. He stirs it for a few moments, then turns back to the trembling coyote. Hope you don't mind the ice, but it should be cool enough to drink now. Still confused and terrified, just wanting something to do, to focus on, Cameron reaches out for the mug the bear is holding out to him. He takes it in a trembling paw, gulping it down. Good God. It's filled with honey and a strong taste of ginger, and it's unlike any chamomile tea that he's had before. Oh, man. Oh, man. The amount of honey is surprising, and he briefly wonders if it's a bear thing, even though Devin never seemed to have much of an affinity for it. Still, Cameron doesn't get the full flavor of the concoction until he's finished it, and as he exhales, an odd nutty taste mixes with what Cameron can only describe as dirt lingers on the back of his tongue. Cameron frowns at the bizarre, terrible tea. He can't help pulling a face as he looks into the mug, a thick round glob of honey remaining at the base, while dark particles slowly collect around it. It's distracting enough that his panic attack is terminated before it can really begin. Brian laughs. Sorry about that. I like to add in kava root to soothe anxiety too. Should have warned you. Cameron had thought the taste was somehow familiar, but he supposes that any kind of root would have an earthy, bitter taste. I have no idea what that is. It's okay. I just wasn't expecting it. I read about kava a few times when I was looking for ways to help with anxiety. Never tried it, though. Well, get ready for it to change your life. It got me off all my chill pill meds. I do have some leftover bars if you need something stronger, though. Oh, I guess that translates exactly to Xanax? I'll wait and see. Well, that would be nice. Cameron already feels like he's falling asleep, so it doesn't seem like the best idea. Well, oh, Jesus Christ. While he mostly believes this bear's story, he doesn't want to be completely unaware of what's happening right now. I'm guessing you've had some experience with it before, huh? Cameron frowns at the table, not sure of what to say. He doesn't really want to discuss his past with a stranger, even if the guy seems like he would understand. Brian puts his paws up, like he's showing that he's unarmed. Hey, I don't judge, kid. I was into that lifestyle for most of my life before I started turning things around. Wow! So he's even saying he turned things around. So what the... So is he... Did he really... Is this the Brian redemption story? No, it's not, because he killed fucking Artie and he kidnapped Brian... not Brian. He didn't kidnap himself. He kidnapped Dev. So what the fuck? Is he just putting up the biggest brave face ever? Because his acting is really strong, because he didn't act like this before. He wasn't able to act sober before. He's been acting really sober and good for a long time. So what the fuck is going on? Unless someone else kidnapped both of them and Brian is somehow a good guy? What the fuck is... I am really fucked up. I'm sorry. I gotta continue. While Cameron is still cautious, he doesn't want to make it seem like he's suspicious. It doesn't feel like the best idea to sour things between him and the only other person with him in the middle of the desert. Yeah, I did a bit of everything in middle school and high school. Only thing I got hooked on was opioids, though. Oof, you were half the country, kid. That's a rough one. The tiredness is starting to plateau, if not recede slightly, and Cameron feels an odd but welcome sense of empathy towards this bear. It must be the kava kicking in. Brian's face appears a bit more defined and clear, and there's a warmness in his eyes. It was my first drug, too. I experimented with everything else because I was trying to find something less addictive and harmful. Brian shakes his head. That's the problem with it. There ain't much else out there that makes you feel good. Well, that's what I'm told, anyway. Brian chuckles. I just took one of my dad's hydros and ended up puking my guts out for hours. Guess I'm lucky that I can't keep them down. Cameron thinks about that. About how nice it would have been if he had become violently ill whenever he tried opioids, or any drug for that matter. Yeah, I'd say that's some good luck. I quit in college and I haven't done it since, though. Good for you. Brian gazes down his nose at Cameron, starting to frown. Cameron's ears twitch as he senses a sudden change in mood. Now, I don't mean to bring this up again, but did your visions get more intense when you did heroin? At first, Cameron wants to correct the bear and say he's never done heroin, but then stops as he thinks back. Of course, his visions got worse whenever he was on certain drugs, including opioids, but he had assumed back then that they were just agitating his already present delusions. It was only today that he'd made the connection between drug usage and hallucinations, or visions. Yeah, actually. And a few times on other stuff, too. Does that happen to you? Definitely. Again, feelings of empathy grow in the coyote's chest. There are others like him. Just like him. Not just like him! God, don't make me empathize with Brian! Maybe I'm not going crazy then. I keep going back and forth on that. Brian chuckles a bit. Well, not normal crazy anyway, right? Say. Brian looks carefully at Cameron again, and the coyote is almost distracted by the glow that seems to be emanating from the bear's eyes. That's a weird fucking thing to say about Brian! Oddly enough, the intensely vivid and defined fur seems to be rippling. Yeah, okay. Yeah. He spiked your fucking tea, as if blowing in the wind, even though they're inside. Is this kava? You ever tried something more trippy, like acid or shrooms? Cameron shifts uncomfortably at the last word. Yeah, both. Acid was fine, but nothing weird happened. Shrooms just kind of fucked me up, and I saw all kinds of things. That's too bad. That one can be a real eye-opener. Cast your minds back to the smoke room with that scene with Murdoch and Ralph. Oh. Cameron isn't sure what else to say, feeling just a bit uncomfortable again. Well, yeah, most drugs make you see more things. The only ones that don't are stems. It's why so many people here got into meth. Brian chuckles again, but this time it sounds a bit dark, sinister even. Only problem with that is meth still makes you see shit, but only because it makes you go crazy. Arches and half circles. Yeah. It's Speaking of, are there any arches and half circles in this room? I mean, there's the bed frame back there, but, we'll just move on. There's the faucet, then there's the shit under the sink. Just stop it. Cameron looks back down at the table, wonders about his mother again, and maybe if she was like him. Maybe she took the stimulants because she was trying to stop the visions, but ended up starting a wave of hallucinations and delusions instead. Cameron watches the wood grain on the table shift and move slightly, like waves on an ocean. Oh boy. Oh, the tripping! Here it comes! And then it hits him. Yep. Oh, god damn it. You done been drugged, son. It hits him hard. The aftertaste of the tea, why it was familiar, why things are moving in inexplicable ways, why everything is feeling more fucked up by the second. He's been here before. Oh, god fucking damn it. Yep. A moment seems to blank out of existence from Cameron's memory because the next thing he knows, he's already standing up, the chair clattering to the ground behind him. He stares at Brian with wide eyes, mouth open, but he can't seem to say anything. He can't think of what to say if the bear did what he thinks he did. No, God, no, God. Brian stares back, watching Cameron carefully in a way that tells the coyote that the bear isn't surprised at all by this reaction, and that makes Cameron even more afraid. Oh, Jesus. The cozy, dreamy lighting of the trailer becomes more ominous, red, and dangerous, and the bear in front of him seems to warp. Oh, God! To a demon. Oh, no, what did you give me? Cameron looks wildly at the coffee mug. You need to calm down, understand? What did you give me? I think you already know the answer to that, so why don't you sit down and get it together? Bear's face is so warped, but Cameron honestly can't tell if it's real or not. What is it? It's like, I don't know what that is. Did you drug me with shrooms? Brian says nothing, but he's right that Cameron knows. I don't know. I can never forget this feeling. Oh my god, why? It ruined my life! Cameron is heaving for breath, this sound of his gasping almost drowning the bear out. Sit down, and I'll explain. Cameron has no intention of sitting down. The sensations and visuals are just as bad as the last time, if not worse, and he's only at the beginning. Fear and panic reach a dizzying level, and Cameron is running around the table for the door, and he's on his back, his chest, spine, and the back of his head aching. Oh my god! Ryan's on top of him, and Cameron's on his back. You can see the coffee mug shattered on the ground a few feet away. Cameron struggles, wheezing for breath. Let me go! I can't breathe! Brian responds by squeezing his arms together, leaning more weight on Cameron's torso. Ag, stop! I'm sorry. Oh, Jesus. He doesn't even know what he's apologizing for, just hoping that maybe it'll get the bear to stop. And I thought you were cute when you were smiling. God. Return of the fucking Mac. That statement, for whatever reason, it's the scariest part of what's happening right now. He starts to scream for the only person he can think of right now. Devin, help me, Devin. Shut the fuck up. Brian sounds legitimately disgusted as he pulls himself off of Cameron. The coyote prepares to scream again, but sees Brian's foot lash around and kick him in the side, sending him up against the base of the counter. Then leaning over with both of his giant paws at the edge of the counter, he starts kicking Cameron over and over. Good God! Cameron yelps and wheezes. The blow's hard enough that he's worried the bear is definitely going to break something if he hasn't already. He thrashes and rolls, trying to escape. And one kick catches him particularly hard at the base of his sternum, and he violently curls up, a loud frog-like croaking noise escaping his throat. Brian pauses as the sounds continue emanating from Cameron's mouth. Cameron can hear the bear breathing heavily over him as Brian watches his agonized writhing, almost like he's fascinated by it. After nearly a minute, the terrible noises turn back to gasps, which then turn into sobs, as Cameron stays curled up on his side, one arm over his midsection while the other is pressed over his eyes. Brian doesn't move, just watching as Cameron cries on the floor. At first, Cameron thinks it might be better to just keep his eyes closed and try to disappear into the darkness, maybe wake up again, but in a new place this time. Anywhere seems better than here. But that's when odd, slightly curved, glowing gold lines begin expanding and shrinking behind his eyelids. Cameron whines at the terrible reminder of what's going to happen. He's going to trip, and it's going to be terrible. Cameron pulls his paw away from his eyes and finds that what he sees isn't much better. The huge bear is crouched in front of him, his fur now a writhing, pulsating mass of a thing that almost seems like another living creature covering the bear. Now listen, and listen good, because what you do next might decide if I let you go or not. This is a dream. It has to be a dream. Everything that's happened, not just in the trailer, but in this whole town, it has to be a dream, a hallucination, a trick. This can't be happening. I need you to talk to some folks I used to know. If you're really one of those psychics, if you can fix my problems, I just might let you out of this town. Wow. So that's the angle, huh? That's the fucking angle? Brian's gonna use us to try to get us, as in Cameron, to try to get at, because depending on the route, if you remember, Brian wanted to get chasing them. And they believed that killing them or whatever, or specifically Chase, was the way to cure the curse on Echo. So that could be the angle. I don't know. Might not be it. I don't know. That could be it. But anyway, Devin, we're at Devin now. Cameron? Devin comes to again, and he blurts out the name without thinking. He's not sure how long it's been since the last time he woke up. It feels like hours, possibly even days since he was last conscious. He'd been dreaming. Something about insects crawling and biting his arms. Tornadoes? A twisting force. He realizes then that his arms are what brought him back to the waking world. They'd fallen asleep, and now the tingling is so bad that it feels like they're covered in crawling, writhing ants made of molten lead. Ugh! The bear grunts in discomfort and tries to bring them down from above his head, but he isn't able to. They come up short, and he hears a rattling sound close to his ears, which twitch at the loudness. Chains? Devin phrases, keeping his eyes closed, unsure if whoever did this to him is close by. Although it's hard to think through all the haziness, the memories come back to him rather quickly. First, he remembers walking deeper into the woods before the strange bear went into his trailer to get something. He came out with a bottle of water, claiming it was for Cameron. Then after walking further into the dense forest, they came upon a white van. The exact kind of van that would make most people suspicious. Devin did become more suspicious, Devin wouldn't be suspicious, but he wouldn't be suspicious. He would he would feel more whatever. Linguistic is weird. But by that time, it was already too late. The old bear had pulled a gun on them, one that wasn't his shotgun, and had told them both to get in the van. Artie started to run, and the other bear didn't hesitate to shoot him, aiming for his head! Devin isn't sure, but he could swear that he saw a spray of something, whether it be fur, blood, or worse, far out from the back of Artie's head before he dropped. Wow! Fan out. Wow, so Artie's fucking dead. I mean, I didn't like Artie, but goddamn. Jesus Christ. Devin's fingers and toes clench inward as he thinks about that moment. The sound. The suddenness of it. Mostly he remembers the way Artie fell. It was instant, like strings that held him up had been cut, crumpling so quickly that Devin is sure that he had been killed. At that point, Devin did everything the old bear had told him to do, including laying Cameron on the rough desert floor. Devin tries to keep from whining as he wonders if that might be the last time he saw Cameron, and then lay down in the van, letting him bind his arms up. He thought about fighting back in that moment, but it was so quick that before he knew it, he was secured and he was made to drink from that bottle. Now he's in the very center of the tornado, a twisting force. Devin clenches his eyes shut even tighter, feeling moisture gather at the corners. Around the point is equal to force times distance. But he opens them a moment later, realizing that his captor would have seen all the movements he made. Perpendicular to force. He is alone in the van. His eyes sting, and the bear realizes that he's sweating heavily. This metallic box he's stuck in is hot, almost overwhelmingly stifling. He worries for a moment that he slept through the night, and now it's sunrise and he's about to cook to death in this van. But after gauging the light, he decides that it's still around sunset, just a few hours after what had happened. After Artie had been killed. Shit. Devin squeezes his eyes shut again, feeling tears leak out and into the moist fur around his cheeks. He allows himself this moment, but quickly focuses again, knowing Cameron is still out there with that bear. That's enough to get a rise from Devin, one that builds into a wave in his chest, a combination of adrenaline and terror, but mostly fury. While the brutality of this backwards bear evokes fear in Devin, it also makes him angry. That anyone would feel they have a right to do what the old bear did. He opens his eyes again and takes in his surroundings. He's lying flat on his back, arms stretched above his head. You can feel that it's a pair of handcuffs that are holding him in place. There's enough give that slowly he's able to turn over on his stomach. This action is incredibly painful, and Devin can't help but grunt loudly, his arms feeling like they might fall off as they spasm. Slowly, painfully, he pulls himself up into a kneeling position, getting a better look at his predicament. He realizes then that these handcuffs are more like shackles, meant to hold bear-sized creatures like himself in place. They're bolted into the floor of the van. Devin glances up suddenly, his ears catching what sounds like a faint cry outside the van. "Cameron?" Devin's voice comes out hoarse and cracked once more. Was that Cameron? It sounded like him. Devin is still groggy from whatever it was in that bottle of water, but he's sure he heard the distinct sound of his boyfriend's voice. The fact that it's now so suddenly absent convinces Devin that it was definitely Cameron. He strains to listen for several more seconds, but can't hear anything. He looks down at the heavy chain linking the metal cuffs around his wrists. Unbreakable. Still, he finds himself foolishly yanking at the shackles, hoping that there's some kind of give in that slightly rusted chain and bolts. Shit! Tears fill Devon's eyes, the feeling of falling forever returning. He'd felt this way only a few times before. First time being when he was running home after he'd found Lupita's body. The last time being when he saw Arturo getting shot. And now, knowing that his boyfriend could be at the mercy of the bear whose intentions Devin can't even begin to guess, he just knows that they're very, very bad. But seeing the faces of those people, it changes something in Devin. A cool, icy calm descends in him, and he looks at the chains carefully. His classes in physics had taught him all about the way in which force is exerted and can seemingly accomplish things that seem impossible. So, even while his heart hammers in his ears, and even while his brain is clouded with a dense fog of sedation, Devin analyzes the chain and the bolts hiding in its place. Torque. Fuck. You gonna leave me on torque? Wow. That's a hell of a fucking place to end it. Well, there you go. There's your credits. Jesus fucking Christ. Well, good God. So there's your fucking Arches update. Months after it came out. Sorry about it being so late. I'm still in the process of catching up with all the updates that I'm late on, but you know, this is the one of the last ones where I'm relatively, you know, recent on. I only have one update left. I think after this, I know in Terria, I'm a couple updates late on, and then after that, are all the games where I'm very late on, either because I've only done a couple episodes and there's a fuckload of game after that, or it's extracurricular activities and there's always going to be updates forever. Wow. There's a lot to take in on this one. My short thoughts on this is we saw sides of Brian that we never saw before. Before, in Echo, he was painted very clearly just as basically the mindless heavy for Duke. And now he seemed to have way more autonomy, or at least an autonomous not a specter, but a shield or a front to put on. He was able to, for a long time, make it seem like he was a completely different person. Now, of course, he wasn't. Now, we haven't seen him go all the way to the depths that he was before, but he did seem to be a completely new force to be reckoned with. Because whereas before he was extremely powerful, but in no way clever, now he seems just as powerful and clever and emotionally manipulative at the same time, which is extremely terrifying. Like, that makes him even worse, because if he's willing to go to the same depths as he was before, which we've got no reason to believe he won't, if he's willing to go to that same place as before, then oh boy, this new Brian with his tea and fake sympathy and cleaner apartment for all new fucking horror, we're in for a whole new bag of shit. Like I said, of all the fucking things to bring, we were like, oh, Chase is gonna come back to Echo. Maybe we'll see Leo again. No. Maybe in the future, but no. First, we gotta deal with Duke cutting our fucking brakes and Brian kidnapping us. That's what we get. That's the shit we get from the old game. That's the comebacks we're getting. God damn. So yeah, they're pulling no punches here. We already had a character death on the 0.5 update, for Christ's sake. So, thank you for watching. See you on the next one. Bye, everyone.